Hello and welcome to Black Bear Atheist. Today we're gonna check out a video by Deflate. Atheists make absurd claim about God. This is another Christy Burke reaction. And again, like I said in the last video, this woman does not need me to defend her. She's quite knowledgeable about the Bible, see the contradiction, see the BS that it is. We're just gonna see what Deflate has to say about her. And I excuse the lightning and the thunder. I live in Florida, and right now it's a living hell of storms every day. Let's get into the video.
Everything that you can claim about God, you could also apply to the universe itself.
Oh, really? So the universe is an omniscient, supernatural being that forgives sins? Hi everyone, my name is Lucas and welcome to Deflate, where you learn to tackle the skeptics' objections to Christianity. Today, we're checking.
We don't do that in this channel. You don't actually do that in this channel. I've watched few of your videos. You actually don't tackle shit. And you shall see that new viewers, old viewers, if you haven't watched the old videos that I did on him, you shall see that through this 5 minute video. He doesn't go against a skeptic. He doesn't actually give answers. Which, if you've watched enough Christian channels, theist channels in general, you get what I'm saying.
Checking out another one of Christy Burke's videos where she claims that belief in God is absurd. So let's get started and see what else she's got after that, well, absurd introductory statement.
What if we are just one collective universe existing itself? What if we are our own God? And we won't find out until we die and go to the next dimension or go back to our divine realm. That sounds absurd.
Okay, so you basically listed what could be called simplified and potentially distorted characteristics of beliefs we would typically find in Eastern religions, like Hinduism, for example. I don't have any beef with you finding these absurd, since these beliefs have nothing to do with Christianity, and I know that you're perfectly aware of that. So I want.
Isn't it quite interesting that you find those beliefs absurd? In your own word, absurd. But how would you know for sure? Do you actually know for 100% they are not right and you're wrong? There's thousands of religion, thousands of different gods. How do you know you're serving the right one? When they also have the same spiritual experience and they believe they can do miracles and bunch of magic tricks. How do you know you actually are right? It's not like you actually have better religious texts. It's not like you have better moral grounds. You don't have an objective moral ground. We are living on a subjective moral ground. So how do you know you're right? I mean, I know the answer to that. You don't. You're just making a guess based on no evidence that you're on the right path, on the right religion. That's all you're doing. Instead of following the evidence and seeing that there's no conclusive proof that a God exists. God gods, however you want to put it.
Wonder what your point is exactly.
But is it any more absurd than one supreme being looking down on all of us, listening in on all of our thoughts and caring who we sleep with?
Yes. The idea.
It's the same thing. Do you say it's the same absurd idea? It's just translating two different things. Is believing in a collective God like the Greeks Olympics, or believing in just one single God doing everything. It's a bold claiming of the supernatural that is just things that you have no evidence of. And I must mention, Christy Burke actually does videos. She actually has videos. I have not seen this guy do a reaction or you know the bunker on actual videos that she did. These are just shorts. And I get it. Maybe shorts are supposed to explain things in a short manner. But it doesn't have everything. If you really want to go against our ideas, maybe watching one YouTube video, she actually talks about these things. Not just a short or a TikTok video. Like, come on.
Here, for example, of us being one collective universe existing in and of itself, as you put it, whatever that meant, is definitely more absurd than the concept of one supreme being. And we'll get to the who you sleep with part in a bit. Here's the thing, whether you believe in God or not, your worldview is going to feature some sort of hierarchical framework, which means that you hold some things with greater value or vest them with greater authority than other things. Even as an atheist, you believe in some supreme or fundamental layer of reality that undergirds everything that exists. It's matter in
I'm not sure I do. I don't think I believe in some supreme being that can do magic tricks.
general or subatomic particles in particular for some atheists, whereas for others it's the laws of nature. Bottom line is that
I'm not worshiping the law of nature. I just know it actually exists. It's not worship matter or relationship matter of, oh yeah, I have a personal relationship with the law of nature and I know all about it. Heck, I don't know all laws of nature.
everyone's worldview features some supreme or ultimate entity. So no, nothing absurd about a supreme being. And why do you find the idea absurd?
Uh, yes, because you have no evidence backing it. Nobody is worshiping the law of nature. You don't put it on top of your house and go, yes, law of nature, guide my day today. Like nobody does that. No atheist is worshiping God or worshiping some aspect of a divine being. Just saying everybody does it doesn't mean actually everybody does it.
That a supreme being is looking down on all of us and listening in on our thoughts. And that's the very license you yourself have given to the Chinese company who runs TikTok and essentially owns all the content you put out there. What then is so absurd about the being who
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess this guy hates TikTok so much he's just doing a bunch of TikTok reactions for TikTok. Like, okay, that is not the same thing as a God creating everybody and reading their mind and caring about, like she said, how they live their life and apparently who they sleep with. It does not make sense. And it's not reasonable.
cares about who we sleep with. Given that there is no lack of sexual predators, pedophiles, or even just seemingly normal people who care for nothing but their own pleasure, there is nothing wrong with a supreme being actually caring about your relationships, your social
Oh wow, bring in the pedophiles when we all know and understand what she's referring to or adults. But I guess we're gonna forget the fact that your God, divine being, is also literally a pedophile. Having a intercourse, non-physical apparently, with a 14-year-old between 12 to 14 is what they date back to. And even if Christians wanna say it's 16, according to the today's standard, that is still a pedophile. Like you're still preying on a child. A divine being preying on a child. Talking about pedophiles.
interactions, or who you sleep with. What would be absurd is the idea that a supreme being, if it is to be morally supreme, should not care about your sexual well-being.
No matter how you
It doesn't make sense that a supreme being would care about your sexual morality when he made you the way you are. It doesn't make sense that that actually affects the relationship between both of you when he designed all of it, knowing how things will actually turn out. Why would he care when it doesn't affect him and it doesn't actually hurt you?
look at it, it's all kind of absurd. Life and reality is absurd.
No, I don't think so. And you theatrically asserting that life is absurd doesn't yet make for an argument that this is so. But either way, I can definitely understand why, given your atheistic position, you'd say that life seems absurd. I mean, that's the conclusion that has forced itself on some of the brightest atheistic thinkers.
And we don't
I wouldn't say life is absurd. I'm gonna say that it is quite. I mean, it did took a quite a long time for life to actually develop on different. So far, we know of just her. It took 13 point something billion years for us to get here. 4 point something billion years ago, Earth become a thing. 3 point something billion years, we get life on the planet. It took another billion years to get to actual organisms living and actual, like, humans, or our ancestors at least. So it took a long time, and the recent civilizations, I believe, we're just few thousand years old. So it took quite a long time for us to get here. That's why there's so much people who don't believe in evolution, apparently, even though there's evidence for it. So in that sense, I guess you could say it's absurd. I'm not really sure what she's getting at. Let's hear her.
Don't definitively know how this came to be, what our purpose is, where we're coming from, or where we're going. Why label it God?
I'm happy to agree that we don't definitely know where we come from and where we're going. If by definitely knowing you mean knowledge with 100% certainty. But the fact that Christians can admit to having knowledge that is less than certain does literally nothing to undermine Christianity or this thing we label God. So I still don't know what your problem is.
Why
Except you don't go with less certainty. You guys actually make claims which, like, you have 100% certainty. Like, you actually communicate with this divine being, which many of Christians actually claim. That they communicate with this God every single day. They have a relationship with this God. So you're not just making a guess, you're claiming to actually know and know. So I'm not sure what you're trying to get at here.
not just be okay with the fact that we don't actually know and that the evidence points to nothing? Really, the evidence doesn't point to anything because God is a label that we have created. You can't say that the evidence points to God when God is man made.
Well, if there is
That is true. You can say the evidence points to God when God is man made. I mean, maybe God does exist, but thus far, the evidence that we could find in our universe does not say God actually definitely exists. So believing in a God will be like believing that there's a spaghetti monster in the outer space. However, Christians wanna go against a little, dumb claim. Oh, we know we created spaghetti, blah blah blah, because we also created God. No matter how you wanna put it, Christians, you believe there's false gods out there. They were also created by humans or created by something. The idea was created by humans. That's why you consider them false gods, and they can't do anything to you because they're just not real. That's how you think of this other different gods that other people worship. So if we have all these first gods, all these first, idols that people apparently worship that can do shit for them, and you believe you have the right one, like, how does that work? You think everybody else have a god that was created, a false god that was created for them, and they just worship blindly. But you think out of you out of the other thousands, have the right one. You win the lottery. It doesn't make any sense. These are just ideas made up. And the Christian God was definitely made up. I mean, just look at one factor. Your God is a male or a man or however you want to call him. The Bible refers to him as a he. I'm sorry. What does that even indicate? Why is a God? What's God who is a spirit a man? What does being a man means? Like, just think about that one factor. This is how you know it was created by humans.
anything absurd here, it's your notion that evidence doesn't point to anything. This simply doesn't make sense. Evidence always points to something, which is why it's called evidence. I mean,
She said nothing, meaning indicating that we couldn't find any evidence pointing to a divine being, which you're claiming the evidence should actually point toward. There's no evidence pointing toward your God.
You may say that the evidence is inconclusive or that it lends itself to multiple interpretations, but to say that evidence points to nothing makes about as much sense as saying that an arrow points in no direction.
Yeah, that's how I know she's probably referring to like the Big Bang because she was talking prior to that about we don't know how we got here and we don't know where we're going. So she's probably referring back to the literally the beginning, in a sense, of the universe, the singularity.
Second, what's the problem with saying that the evidence points to something when this thing is man-made? If I enter a house and I smell the smell of freshly baked bread,
Yeah, I'm sorry. If the thing is man made, if God is man made, that just means we made him up. That means it's no different than My Little Ponies. I don't know how that got in my head, but that's an interesting example. It's no different than saying God is like My Little Ponies or things we know we made up. Like, I don't know. Any other story, any other kid story, things we know we made up. So making it not true and just fairy tale.
I can plausibly there is freshly baked bread in the house. And the fact that the bread is man-made does nothing to undermine my conclusion. To suggest that it does is, again, absurd. Third, sure, the word God may be man-made, if you will, and so is the entire body of theology and philosophy that people have come up with. However, the thing
Again, if that is man made, then that shows that every idea of God that you have is wrong. And if that is wrong, then you don't know God, then you don't know if a God exists, then you're claiming to have a certainty about something that you don't understand, something that you don't know. I have said this again and again. If a divine being does exist, we would know nothing about this divine being. We will not be able to comprehend shit about this divine being. So the fact that a Bible and religious text exist saying we know this and that about this divine being shows they don't understand what the heck they're saying because it's a divine being. I mean, just think about it. God is supposed to be immaterial. What does that look like? Personal, immaterial being. What does that look like? Do you even understand the claims and the attribute that you're smacking to this God? This is how Christians contradict themselves every 2 seconds based on the attribute they're smacking on their God. Because it's just so much things that they have to put together. Oh, it's the first cause. Oh, it's the never cousin. Like, so stupid.
Christian theology or philosophy talks about when it talks about God is a being that is self-existing and uncreated. So no, God as the entity to which the God hypothesis refers to in order to answer questions of origin and meaning is not man-made. I suppose even thinking atheists
I'm sorry, didn't you just stated like 2 seconds ago that theology was man-made? So if some people have the argument and argue for a divine God, a self-existent God, that means they made that up.
like yourself do recognize that there is a distinction between the word God and the actual being that the word is meant to refer to, right? You know what
And I mean, I mean, you're referring to God of the Bible, Yahweh. So God. I'm not really sure what he's got trying to get at here. It's still like you're referring to the same thing. We're referring to the same, I don't know, invisible being.
else is man-made? My video over here where I respond to Christie's terribly flawed argument that the notions of free will and God answering prayer contradict each other. If you
Oh yeah, that is actually true. I don't even need to watch that to tell you that that's actually true. I use this from the point of view of prophecy. If free will cannot exist and prophecies also exist, like they can't go together. It's a contradiction. Anyways, that's where we'll stop with enough nonsense from Deflate. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a good day, people.